Welcome back, Revolutionaries. In today's video, we're kicking off a whole new series on the channel called Revolutionary Insights. Revolutionary Insights is going to be focused on interviewing and talking to people in the creative field, whether that be singers, filmmakers, directors, editors, writers, photographers, and a whole list of other creatives, so that way you guys can get a sense and a sneak peek of what the entertainment and film industry is like, and that way you can learn from their experiences and their insights and hopefully apply them in your own projects. Today we're going to be talking to my buddy ADRIEN. He has been on a couple of projects with me, and he's done a really great job as both a supporting role and a background character. He's going to be talking to us about his experiences and his life on set and what he's learned from all that. So let's welcome ADRIEN. Thanks for coming aboard, man. All right. Of course, man. Of course. No problem. Today, I just kind of wanted to start off a little bit easy, and I wanted to really ask how you got into filmmaking and really just kind of delve deep into what inspired you to join this really awesome field.
For the most part, for the longest time, I never even considered or didn't even know that movies and filmmaking as a whole was even a possible career. I guess what I could say that started my journey towards becoming or wanting to become in the film industry started when I first was introduced to Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park.
Right. I mean, honestly, with Jurassic Park, I think that even today, Spielberg's work on Jurassic Park, particularly the visual effects, still inspires a lot of filmmakers, even to this day. I mean, how could it not?
I remember I was like super fascinated. I was just like legit like mind blown by like the effects. Like you said, like even by today's standards, it holds up to like superior and just like set the bar to like a whole new level. And I was just obsessed with the storytelling, the cast, everybody. Honestly, for the longest time, it inspired me to becoming and wanting to be a paleontologist. So I almost, for the love of God, wasn't even thinking about becoming a filmmaker. I wanted to go uncover dinosaur bones and find dinosaur remains and put them in museums. And for like the longest time, I was just obsessed with wanting to do that. I guess one of the first people that introduced me and showed me that movie making could be like a career and would actually be Matthew Broderick.
Right. I think everybody kind of remembers Matthew Broderick from a lot of the early, mid, and late 90s films. I think a lot of people remember him for his starring role in the 1998 Centropolis version of Godzilla, which I think a lot of people still either love or hate, but I mean, you can't deny that that was a role that kind of put him on the map.
Seeing him in those two very different types of films, that was actually like my first intro to seeing like, okay, so these aren't just like real things that are happening out in the world. It's like they're just like it's like a career and a job. And later on, as I started seeing and getting more invested into it, I guess what really triggered me into like being fascinated by the whole production of Hollywood magic is every time a new movie came out, I'd go buy the DVD and Blu-ray, and I would just like to watch all the special features. I think in fact at times I would just like buy the movie to just watch the special features before I even like watch the movie.
I think a lot of people don't realize that film is not just fun, it's a job. It's a very responsibility-laden job. And a lot of people don't realize that actors, directors, and crew people, they're all there to work. They're there to have fun, but they're there to work. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize that the industry employs a lot of people beyond just those really glamorous positions that are always shown in behind-the-scenes features. The industry employs a lot of electricians, engineers, stuntmen and women, EMTs, visual effects artists, and a whole plethora of other on-set roles that are just incredible and that a lot of people don't realize what goes into them.
One of the things I love about this industry, it's like so many people from so many professions and backgrounds all coming together to create this one vision and bringing it to life, depending on like the budget and whatnot and how you're going about it. But like even still, like an independent movie with like a regular budget, it's like just seeing the amount of work it takes and time to put into those movies. It's just like, wow.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it was eye-opening to see in 2005 the special features of Batman Begins and the whole beginning of the Dark Knight trilogy. And it was amazing to me that Christopher Nolan and the filmmakers and the crew were able to build working Narrows set within an airplane hangar, complete with street lights, manhole covers, laundry lines, and everything else. And they built a section of Gotham City directly within this airplane hangar. It was then that I realized, oh my goodness, this is a whole lot more than any one person is capable of. And I think in a very real way, the philosophy of the filmmaking world is kind of that of the tagline of the 2017 Power Rangers movie. Together, we are more. In a very real sense, that is a daily reality for everybody that works on a film set. None of you guys can do what you do without the help of someone else. Actors cannot do their job without the crew. Crew cannot have a job without the director. Director cannot do his job and bring to life what he sees in his mind without crew and actors. So this idea that people are kind of above the line in terms of, oh, actors are better than crew or directors better than actors. No, that sort of mentality needs to go, because honestly, you're all there to do a job and none of you can get the job done without each other. So now that we know a little bit about why you got into film and the inspirations that led you into it, let's talk a little bit about the first time you got onto a set, a film set, theater set, whatever. But what was the experience like? Did it match your expectations or did it just completely blow them away?
And it wasn't until like my freshman year in high school when I first signed up, I was like, oh, okay, I can actually finally sign up for this. I can actually get into it. And so I signed up for it. It was really interesting. My first year instructor, Charles Lecoq, was a great mentor. He was a great guy. He was a little bit on the off side. Well, one thing I've definitely learned is that like off is definitely good. So like some of the like more creative people in this industry are definitely like that. So he was definitely somebody I learned a lot from, enjoyed working with. And I remember the first year where it was there with him, we did a performance. It was a musical, Pirates of Penzance. That was definitely interesting because I'm not no singing or musical genius by any sorts or by any means, but it was definitely cool. I remember I auditioned for it and I got casted as like one of the background actors. So I had a group of guys to help save me out during that production. But it was definitely really a huge impacting experience. Like just meeting up every day, learning the choreography, seeing the amount of effort. Even for like a high school production, I was like really mind blown by like how committed they were to it and just the amount of work and time they put into the productions and just like the costumes. And it was just like, wow.
So it sounds like you had a crash course in getting your foot in the door as far as the entertainment industry with your theater experience. And I just wanted to kind of boost off of that and talk about your first time being on set of a film and what that was like. So what was the first project you got on as an actor? And what was it like for you? And what did you take away from that?
My first time that I actually got into a movie set was in 2008. I got casted in this independent movie called Becoming Eduardo, directed by Rod McCall. Right. That was my first introduction to being like on a semi big budget production. It was really interesting, like how I came to be part of that. What happened was I was over at school and they were holding auditions, so I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. I want to check it out. Yeah. So I just kind of casually just like threw myself in there in the mix, did my audition, and then like a few days later, I remember I was in class and they called me up. I went up there and they informed me. He's like, hey, guess what? You got casted for this. Here's like some of the things that you need to tell your family. And so basically, I got casted and they told me that we were going to be filming in TRC up in northern New Mexico. And once we got thrown into that experience, it was just like, whoa. Just like seeing all the people there, even for the smaller independent film that it was a lot of people there. And then from there, it was just like kind of like once the ball got rolling, it just like went. And it was just like a huge life-changing experience for me. The first time I got into set, I got it there like at 5 in the morning. Immediately from there, it's just like everybody's getting together and doing what they need to get the set ready. I remember one of the actors, Julian, I was really close with him because I was a supporting actor, so I actually had lines to act with him and talk with him on set. And so that was cool. He was a really cool guy. I really liked interacting with him. I remember one of the things I really tried to do was invest and like watch everything and see how everything was done and learn. I tried to ask as many questions as I could, but not too much to where I was like overbearing myself and like, what's this guy doing? It's like, who are you?
You know, a lot of people understand that it's hard work being in the film industry, but it's also an industry where you get to have live experiences and stories that a lot of people will never get to, a lot of unique experiences that stay with you for pretty much ever. As far as background roles and supporting roles go, let's talk about the differences between each, the unique challenges and pros and cons that each type of role brings, as well as kind of your process for diving into both of these kinds of, roles.
Well, I know for the most part they do have their similarities and differences. You signed up to be a part of this project, so you're there to do a job. For the most part, everybody kind of thinks like acting is just kind of like this big old, oh yeah, I can act, I can do this, you just gotta say a few words in front of a camera. So one of the things I definitely have learned from both just being a supporting role and just like kind of background is like, you're here for a job. You're here to give your best for this performance. You're supposed to help bring this vision to life. And then another thing I've learned about, especially like when I was a background actor, recently my last project I did was Walking with Herb. That was directed by Ross Marks. That was definitely a huge experience. I got to learn a lot of stuff from. But one of the things I really enjoyed and got to see about that was just seeing how so many people, it's like a lot of people, you had a mix of like committed people and people that are just kind of like casually there to come check it out. Just be like, oh, there's a movie and I can be on it? Yeah, cool. Right. One of the complications that I saw from like people that weren't really, I guess in a professional sense, weren't committed to the project. They were just kind of there. It was like, especially like when you see like A-list talent. One of the talents there was George Lopez. A lot of people were there was just kind of like doing their own thing, walking in the middle of the set on takes and be like, oh, hey George, hey, how's it going? It's nice to meet you. And it's just like one of those things, it's like, what are you doing? He's like, come on. One of the unfortunates, I guess, when you have like a large casting call for background actors, of course you are going to get people that want to be in movies and like step into the business and use that as a stepping stone for their resume. So I was definitely one of those people that do that. But sometimes you just get people that just want to kind of like see what's going on, and then they see somebody they recognize and they're just like, whoop, I'm going to go say hi to this person now.
So now that we've talked a little bit about your on-set experience with films like Walking with Herb and Becoming Eduardo, I wanted to kind of boost off of that and dive into a couple of films that we worked on together called Behind the Scenes and Sentinels. Both films were completely different in terms of story and characters and tone, and both of them were completely different in terms of genre as well. So let's talk a little bit about the experience that you had on both of those films and what it was like for you.
When you first asked me to join your project on Behind the Scenes, I felt really privileged, and I was like, okay. I was just excited to be part of a project. And I remember as you were kind of like telling me about the character and the scenario that was going to be going on, it was really challenging. First off, I'd like to say it's always fun to play the bad guys. Right. It's like one of those things where you just like have the most fun with. You can just like go over the top with, just depending on the character, and just have a lot of fun with it. Right. So I remember like when you first told me about the character, he's like this big producer or CEO type of guy. I was like just trying to figure it out in my head. Like, what is this person like? What is a person that's basically like the big fish in his own little pond like? It was like mentally, emotionally, physically, like what kind of like characteristics would I try and take on? So I kind of like referenced a couple of movies and TV shows with those types of characters, but I wanted to make it my own. So it was challenging, but it was also really fun at the same time too. Basically, I'm the big boss that can basically get away with anything whenever I want, with whatever I want. So it was a lot of fun. And then I remember when we came onto set, it was like just working with Nick and seeing how his character was. It was just really such a privilege, and I was just really lucky to be able to work with him and just feed off of him.
Nick, I remember on set, particularly with one scene that was a boardroom scene. It was Nick and you guys had a fairly emotional scene to work off of, and it was really amazing to see you guys work because you guys really played off each other so well and you fed off each other's energy in the scene. It was really easy to get a great performance out of you both. Honestly, that made my job a lot easier, but it also made the performances and the end result of the film a lot better. In that scene, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the scene basically is an argument. It was a really kind of tense scene for both of our characters, but it was also somewhat of a challenge because we had to fit that argument and some of the shouting into this set, but we filmed in a hotel. So we couldn't be too loud and just risk the management coming down on us. So it was a really crazy, very delicate balance with what we could do on set. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that scene.
One part where we had to like exchange and it kind of got like into like an argument of sorts. That was a lot of fun just because I was just kind of like, really, bro? I was like, really? You're gonna talk to me? You're gonna talk to me like that? You're gonna treat the boss like that? It was just a lot of fun because I remember I was just really invested in like having fun with the character, but I also knew that I really wanted to try and bring the best performance I could, especially being it on your first big project that you were working on. I remember just like how much you were telling me and how invested you were. So I was like, I gotta bring my A game to this. Unfortunately, it was challenging but really fun to do. So I had a really great time with the whole process with creating the character and developing him and just bringing him to life once we were on set. And like I said earlier, thankfully for Nick, he was such a great co-star with. It was really easy to feed off of him and just like deliver my performance with him. And it was a huge privilege, and it was just a lot of fun. It was like one of the funnest characters I've had in a while.
So when it came to the second project that I did, which was Sentinels, it was a complete shift in both terms of story and of tone, and it was a much, much different film. Given that the first one was more of a character study and a drama, Sentinels was more of an action-based film with the story of a vigilante on the hunt for a crazy serial killer. And it was a very different story with a lot different challenges. And your experience on that was more of a background character, but it was still challenging due to the fact you had to do a four-way fight scene. So let's talk a little bit about that, what that experience was like.
That was actually like my first time going into like any kind of like stunt work or choreography of any sorts with the fighting choreography. And so I found that really interesting. I thought it was really fun too because the two original guys that we had on set, it was like we were able to like practice it for like, I think it was like a couple of days or at least
Something like that,
yeah, sort of. So we had the time to like get all the choreography done, work with Alan, work with each other, get it all memorized, make sure everybody was safe. And thankfully we also had Scott there too, our choreographer there. So having him alongside with us was a lot of fun. I remember a lot of the times we kind of like, we had, even though we had the mattings there for protection and everything, every once in a while we'd have to like fall onto the pavement and the concrete. So it was like we got a little bruised up there. But I mean, it's not fighting choreography. You don't get a little bruised up, right? I remember Alan, he was always worried about like hitting too hard, and it's like I was like, no, dude. I mean, like hold back, hold back. Right. But I mean, like just kind of go with it a little bit. I mean, if you accidentally do it, I mean, it's all good. I mean, like we say, as long as it looks good on film.
Right.
As long as it looks good on film, that's what matters. There was a scene where Alan grabbed the back of my head. I was like, oh, and then boom. And there was one instance where he just kind of like knocked me pretty good. It wasn't all that bad, but I remember at the end of the take, I was like, dude, are you okay? I am so sorry. And I'm like, dude, it's all good. Right. It's all good. And yeah, I mean, that happens. Things happen, but it's all good. Nothing serious came out of it. I was just really glad that everybody was able to learn the choreography. We made it look good, and everybody got it done safe and sound, and everybody wasn't hurt at all whatsoever.
So now that we've talked about two different kinds of roles and all the other background experience, I can imagine there's a lot you take away from each role, but what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from your career in film, and what are some lessons you can hopefully impart to any future actors who might be interested in getting into the film world?
What I've learned from both experiences, though, is that regardless of whether you're the main cast, supporting character, or just background, you're there for a job. So you're there to do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it. Mm-hmm. Be professional, be on time, be early if possible. I would definitely recommend being early. Right. And just doing the best that you can so you can help the production and vision just come to life as a whole. Just help make everybody's lives easier as well as your own, you know? You're always gonna learn something. Mm-hmm. Don't ever think that what you know is just permanent and that you can take to every set and just imply it there. No, you're always gonna learn something different. You're always gonna be in different situations and scenarios. So it's kind of just like you kind of have to just go with the flow on every set and just kind of like be open to like new experiences and lessons and people.
All right, so now we've had a really awesome discussion and we've really talked at length about some really awesome topics. Let's talk a little bit about, your future plans and what that entails. I know it's a little bit difficult in the midst of, what's going on in our world, and thankfully things seem to be getting a lot better, but once everything opens up, I was kind of wondering, what are your future plans and what kind of acting roles do you hope to get in the future?
Well, right now, I don't want to say it's difficult but challenging right now, especially being in the midst of the pandemic and everything. Everything's kind of like put on hold and for the most part just kind of like shut down. But hopefully whenever things start picking up again, I would really like to just like try to dive myself into that and putting myself out there as much as I can. Right now, I'm actually investing in trying to get like my own equipment so I can do and learn self-tape audition, so I can try and put myself out there. So whenever things open up, hopefully, I'd like to try and go up to northern New Mexico, up in Albuquerque.
Awesome. Yes.
So that's where I really would like to try and go like in the near future. But for the most part, just keep my eyes out open. I'd also like to try and maybe like see about stretching my wings. One of the things I'd like to try and do right now is invest in screenwriting. That's kind of like a whole new take, because I actually really did not realize how much like time and effort and just like mentality goes into like writing a script. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's like something I'd like to try and do. I'd like to like expand my horizon and like my skill sets. I'd like to like definitely try and see about doing producing, directing, and screenwriting. But as for acting right now, whenever things open up, I'd like to just try and see whatever possibilities I can get and see what I can get, you know? I mean, you never know. We never know. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
That is going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this really awesome discussion with my buddy Adrian Zavala, and you really learned some awesome things, as well as were inspired to get into your own projects. If you guys like today's content, go down below, click the subscribe button. Click that little bell icon so that way you don't miss a single one of my videos. I'll be putting both my links and Adrian's links for our social media down in the description box below, so that way you can go give us a follow. And for anybody that's out there who's a filmmaker watching this, you guys want to work with us for roles or collaborations, our emails are going to be down in the description box below, so be sure to go give those a look. With that said, Revolutionaries, again, super special thanks to Adrian. With that said, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.